Okay, hi everyone. Thanks for joining. My name is Anila. I don't know if you saw my introduction video, but I'll still go ahead and give you one more introduction. My name is Anila Viswambaran. I am based out of Washington, D.C., yes, the capital of US. My office is maybe 500 feet away from White House. So I used to see it pre-COVID. I used to see it every day on my way to work. So it's not a big deal for me anymore. But still, I like to tell people that I can see the White House from my office building. I was a CUSAT. I am a CUSAT alumni. I passed out in 2003, and my professional journey started off with TCS, Tata Consultancy Services. I got into TCS through campus selection at CUSAT, and then over the past 18 years, I worked as part of TCS. I've had the privilege of working for a lot of customers, a lot of companies, organizations in my data analytics journey. And once I left TCS, I've been privileged again to work for a lot of good companies like Airbus, like Western Union, and currently I work for the Bank Fund Federal Credit Union, which is like a bank for exclusively for World Bank and IMF employees. That's all based out of DC. Um, all my life, I've worked only in data analytics. So I started off as a developer, and right now I own an analytics platform. So I just want to go through what my journey is. Feel free to ask questions through chat or interrupt me anytime. I have, I'm doing this presentation my style. I kind of like to incorporate some fun and some, some memes, and it's not all talk. I like it when people have fun in my sessions. So I'm going to share my screen and let me know if you cannot see it. Maya, can you see it?
It's just coming up. Just yep, we can see it.
Okay. So there may be a lag. So I'll try to keep up with the lag of the internet. And by the by, yes, it's 11:30 at night here on a Friday. So if there are any slips, I'm going to attribute it. I drank coffee, but it's probably I'm a little sleepy headed too. So I apologize in advance for any mistakes that I make. So let's
Really appreciate it. Really appreciate you doing it so late at night. Thank you.
um, so what is data analytics? I know you all have heard of data analytics, and I know you all data analytics jobs are considered one of the most privileged or most. I read somewhere that it's the sexiest job in the current situation. What is it? What is generally your idea about it? This is pretty much the crux of what I know. Okay, there's a lot of data. People come and ask us, what can you do with the data? And we say, yeah, I think we can do something. And this cartoon pretty much summarizes a day in the life of a data analyst. But then you must also have heard about business intelligence, right? So what is data analytics and what is business intelligence? What is the difference, or are they the same thing? Let's find out. This slide may look very complicated for you, but this is how I visualize the difference between business intelligence and data analytics. Now, when an organization starts off, right, they may have some data, they may have some reports or some queries or some things that they can learn out of the data that they have. We use what we call dashboards. Dashboards is based on, just like the word says, dashboards. A dashboard, what do you see in the dashboard of a car? It's a place where you can see everything. You see your speedometer, you see your fuel gauge, you see your all your, odometer, everything is in the car's dashboard. And it enables the driver to look at that in one instant, understand the general status of the car, correct? The dashboard in a business is also the same. It's a collection of a lot of visuals that in one glance show you what you want to see. There may be some business questions asked. How's my sales doing? How's my profit doing? Is there something that is in red? Am I lagging in some department? Or am I doing really well in some other department? So all these are called dashboards and scorecards. And this is done using the data that the organization collects, right? So if you are, let's say, a shop that sells a lot of chocolates, so you want to collect all the data of every shop that sells your chocolate. You want to collect that information and you want to see which brand of chocolate does well here. Why is it doing well here? Why is it doing bad in other places? Is there something that I can do to help do it, help the sales improve? What do the people think about it? Is there some marketing strategy that I can apply? So all these insights you can derive from that data by using dashboards and scorecards. So at this point, your data is showing what happened in the past with your company, right? You can say it can give you descriptions of what is happening with your company, and it can also diagnose what is happening with your company. So that's called diagnostic analytics, right? So for me, till up until this point, is what we actually call business intelligence, right? It is intelligence about your business. So at this point, the data is just telling you what is currently happening, what happened with your company or organization. Once you have all this information, what can you use this data to prevent something from happening, or to understand why exactly did this happen? Is your sales in a particular area because there are maybe a lot of schools there? Is it because of a particular age group, or is it because of the weather? What are the things that are making sales in one area good and sales in another area bad? So this is where you are doing data mining, which is exploratory in nature, right? Where you're looking at the information, you're trying to find out what happened based on why did this thing happen based on the data that you have. Once you know why it is happening, then you can start predicting what will happen with the data. So you can say, oh, this product is going to really perform bad in this area in the next 5 years. So let's just pull out slowly and concentrate on areas that do better, maybe. You know, so that's called predictive or suggestive analytics. And this is where all your machine learning models, all your artificial intelligence, everything comes into place. So once you've reached this stage, I would say you're at an advanced level of data analysis. And once you have this in your, once an organization has this part in their kitty, the next thing is you can decide with the data that you already analyzed what is going to happen. You can be market disruptors. So this is, you can predict, and based on that prediction, you can act, you can drive the market. So overall, if you look at this graph, for me, this part where you've collected your data and you're looking at what happened is called business intelligence. And once you have collected the data, whatever you do to make your data company data driven and make decisions based on that is data analytics. So even though I keep saying data analytics, I would say it encompasses business intelligence as well as data analytics. Now, it looks very complicated, but for me, that is the main difference. And these black swans that you see here, they're the disruptors, right? That come across. You have big data that came in early 2000-ish times. Then the cloud happened. So everything was usually, I don't know if a lot of you are familiar with what cloud is, but until the cloud revolution happened, almost everything was on premise, where an organization managed their servers, managed their data. Once cloud came in, all that responsibility started slowly going away. So it revolutionized information management in a very big way. And then, of course, you've probably heard and talked to a lot of data scientists. Data science, again, people were doing it in the past quite a bit, but in the revolutionary way and in the way that we are doing it today with so many tools happened very late in the game. Maybe I would say in the past 5 to 6 years is when data science actually became data science. And that's another major disruptor in the analytics organization, right? Now, a major part of my earlier, now this is the journey of an organization. Now, we're not here to talk about the organization, we're here to talk about me, right? So most of my career has been in business intelligence. So in the past 18 years, I would say at least the first 10 to 11 years, I've been here with business intelligence. And then once the big data explosion happened is when the whole data analytics part came in. So I like to call myself a BI, business intelligence, and a data analytics professional, because I don't want to lose the BI part of it, because data analytics is mostly focused on this area. Now, what's the first role that I had? Before that, let me just give you, so what happens in a business intelligence system, right? You have a lot of data. Again, if you're a business, you have information that comes in from other shops, other organizations that sell your product, or it could be anything, right? That could be databases. A database is just a collection of data, structured data in the form of tables. That's rows and columns. Then you could also have Excel sheets. People in finance generally like to use Excel sheets. So your data could be in Excel sheets. It could be in any format. Flat files is, again, just raw data in a file format, and also unstructured content, right? A lot of your um, text coming from PDF, coming from a lot of your information that you type on websites, your reviews, they're all unstructured content, which means I cannot break them down into rows and columns. It's unstructured. So if I have to get information from that, I need to learn to work on that unstructured content. So these are all what I call a data source to my system. So all information coming from all various sources. The next step is to extract this information, transform this information into or everything should be in, you cannot compare apples to pineapples, right? Everything has to be in terms of apples to be able to compare it. So you transform all that and then you load it into something called a data warehouse. What's a data warehouse? Again, I'm not sure if all of you are familiar with what a data warehouse. A data warehouse is just that, a warehouse that has a lot of data. So you store an organization's data in a large, or maybe small, I wouldn't say large, but in a set of tables and structures and files, and that's called a data warehouse. So all of this is extracted, transformed, and loaded into the data warehouse. Now this extract, transformation, and loading is called ETL. So you have a lot of tools that help you do ETL. Some of them are commonly Informatica, Data Stage, but nowadays there are so many tools in the market that do this. They take all these data sources, they enable you to transform them into particular, they do data quality, they allow you to scrub off any bad data, and then you can load it into the data warehouse. What is a data warehouse? A data warehouse is nothing but it could be a database management system. An RDBMS is called a relational database management system. It's just a group of tables that are linked together. It could be an MPP, that's called a massively parallel processing system. Again, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but these are all database systems that you can use to store data. So it's not, the names may not sound familiar, but just to understand that these are all technologies you can use to help store data. Once you've stored the data, the end users, right? We call them the end users or the business users who actually look into this data and do something with it. And what do they do with it? They either create reports or they do data analytics that I talked to you about, and or senior leaderships, right? Like executives who are CEOs and CIOs. They don't have time to do analysis or they don't want to see reports that are very detailed. They just need snapshots of data. So those are called executive dashboards, or anything, any presentation layer, whatever you take. If you take this data and present it, that's reporting out of that data. So there are various tools again for reporting and analysis and any dashboards or any presentation that you want to do out of this data. Now, this is the overall BI framework. And earlier, like I said, most of my career was in, the early parts of my career was in a BI system because big data hadn't happened. Big data was slowly happening. So most of my early part of the career was here. So the phase one was as a business intelligence developer, which means this is what happened. I told you, I like to incorporate some memes. So most of the time, this is very important. My coworkers never understood what I was doing, but what I actually did was just write queries. Okay, moving on. So if this is the BI framework that I showed you about, around 50% of my time was spent here, which was I was collecting the information, writing, actually writing SQLs. SQL is structured query language, SQL, and we just call SQL. Until I was until I was in, until I started my first project. A SQL was just part two of everything. Everything changed. So SQL is what we call as SQLs. So we write SQLs, we write code to extract this data and put it into the data warehouse using some of the tools that I mentioned. Another 50% was usually spent in the reporting area, right? Once you get this data, you put it into a data warehouse. What do you do with that? You create reports, you create dashboards. So a lot of that development was done. We call it development. Creating something is development. So a lot of was spent in analyzing, creating jobs that would analyze the data and report the data. Okay, and 100% of the time I was crying, saying, "Shikri gar jana hai." But everything was not doom and gloom. But there are some things that I wish I knew before I went in. First is I did my engineering in electronics and communication, which means the only programming that I learned was in my final year, I think, was Java. And I had absolutely no programming knowledge. I knew to use a computer. I knew how to do basic stuff on computers, but I had absolutely zero programming knowledge. And initially, when I started my career, I thought you needed programming background, but no, you don't. Everything you can figure out everything with the help of Google. If you have Google, you can figure it out. You know everything. Um, Third normalization, normalization and third normal form was something that I used to hit my head on. I don't know if it's still taught. I don't know if it's outdated. But that was something that everybody who was teaching us databases used to say, no, this is something that you have to learn. It was the most complicated thing at that time. But honestly, in my 18 years, I have never used data normalization or the third normal form ever. So if anybody tells you this is something that you're going to, it's like calculus. Like you spend 2 years learning it and then you never use it ever in your life. When you start writing a query, which I told earlier, which is an SQL, there are 100 different ways to write the same SQL, and everything is, all the ways are right. So don't ever stick to a particular template. Go figure out ways and make new ways to. And what produces results is what matters. And sometimes, you look at the tech lead, and the tech lead may seem very, you will always work with the tech lead, and the tech lead may seem very intimidating, but sometimes, the tech lead doesn't have a clue. So be vocal. If you have an idea, present it to your tech lead. You will, in your career, work with a lead at some point of time, hopefully. And at that point, don't be intimidated. Don't think that tech lead is a know-it-all. In a good way, present your ideas. Sometimes even the tech lead gets lost. So your ideas may come as lifesaver. Moving on. The next step was obviously the tech lead. So once I was a developer, I moved on to a tech lead where a tech lead is nothing but a technology lead, right? So we are in charge of one area. So summary is you have all the responsibility or you have all the responsibilities. Okay. But so in this, the scape landscape that I talked to you about earlier, now that I was the ETL lead, 80% of my time was spent on this. But again, even though I was writing in code and I was writing the same things that I was doing as a developer, it went one step ahead. I was also in charge of designing things. I was also in charge of telling my developers what to do. A lot of information. There are people called data architects who know the data in and out. So a lot of meetings with them, interactions with them to figure out what is the best way to bring this data into the data warehouse. So you take that one step ahead. 10% of my time was also spent in data warehouse design, which was designing tables, trying to figure out how to join this data, what is the optimal table design, and things like that. So a lot of information was again with the database architects, with the database administrators, to figure out what is the best way to store data. And then 10% in reporting, again, creating dashboards and reports and seeing how things work together. So even though a lot less time spent here, but again, it was becoming a little more higher level. The things that I learned in this part was that design absolutely matters. So you can't just focus on your area and say, I'm going to figure out and solve this problem and forget about the overall design. So design absolutely matters when you start thinking. And what you have to think is, whatever you're going to do here is going to affect things here. So you have to start thinking end to end. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to implement this solution here and then forget about what is going to happen, how it is affecting the end product, right? So this is when I start thinking about designing with the end in mind. These are some of the things that I wish I knew, that it's okay to say I don't know. Some people have a major problem saying I don't know, and some people see it as a weakness. But in my journey, I feel like I don't know is our three most powerful words. This is the point in your life when you are taking up additional responsibilities professionally, and also maybe in your life there are some changes, right? Typically these are the times when you get married, or you have buy a house, or you have additional responsibilities there, and you have to spend some time on your family. And it is okay to talk about work-life balance and ask for work-life balance to your leads, but be aware of it, that you don't have to say yes to everything at work, and you need to pay attention to your other life also. And also, you will make plenty of mistakes. But what I have learned is that not everybody will remember everything. So you may be sitting and crying for a mistake that you did 3 months back, but honestly, nobody would even care after 2 days. So everybody has short-term memory, like Amir Khan in Gajni. You only remember the last thing you did, whatever you did in the last 15 minutes, whether it is good or bad. People only remember that. So if you did a bad thing, don't worry, do a good thing and people will forget about that bad thing that you did. So that was one of the main things that I wish I knew when I was here. Once, and of course, you will always think, when is this going to end? Because all the additional responsibilities. The phase 3 was when I became a end-to-end implementation lead. So again, I like to make people smile. So this part is very important, because this is when you start talking to those end users that I talked to you in the first slide about, right? These are the business users. So business users are people who technically don't understand anything. They don't understand ETL code, or they don't understand what SQL you're going to write, or how you're going to do it at the back end. These are people who only see the dashboards. These are people who only understand the business requirement. So they think that they can walk in and they will say, oh, wave your magic wand and should give me that report. But then at the back end, you have to go figure out if the data is there. You have to collect that information. So a lot of diplomatic conversations should happen with your business users. So this part is very important. They think your job is very easy. They think you can just pull out a bunny from your hat, but actually it is not. So in this role as a end-to-end delivery lead or an implementation lead, again, my journey was pretty much the same, but I started spending a lot more time in this thing called business intelligence delivery, which is where you talk to that business user, right? The person who's going to report, who's going to use your report. Sometimes they may be data scientists, sometimes they may be people who have not even used an Excel sheet. There is a wide variety of business users that you will talk to. So that area, and 10% again, still in developing reports, and but end to end, it is at this point that you are responsible for what we call a delivery of a product or a delivery of platform, or you have to start managing projects. So there may be some main requirement that may come in saying, in the next 1 month, we have to create a portal that has all the measures, all the metrics. So that's a product, right? So you start getting involved in projects that take more time. And people will come to you, like senior management, or your CIO may come to you and look for the status of the project. And most of it is a balance between the technical part of it as well as the delivery part of it, or the project management part of it. This is where you will start managing people, which means you will be responsible for a team. You may have people here. You may have to do projects that have people in India and the US, or in some other Philippines or Singapore. So you may have to connect all of them. So you're responsible for people management also, apart from technology management. And half of the time you'll be on the phone asking, tell me what happened there. Can you give me a status? Can you tell me what is happening here? And this exactly defines what most of your work will be. Okay. And things that I learned is I have been in 3 meetings at the same time, and I'm not kidding. I'm not exaggerating. So this is a point when multitasking goes to the next level, right? But the thing that always helps me is at this point is when you sometimes have the tendency to lose touch with your technology. So you get so involved in management and status reports and status updates to people that you forget how technology works or how the grassroots level works, right? This is like uh, that is like your bread and butter. The main thing that has worked for me is I've always been in touch with the technology, and that is by having conversations with your developers, with your architects. So know everything. Know you don't have to be an expert in every technology, but you should be able to understand how everything works. So always be in touch with technology, whether or not you're in a management position or not. And things that I wish I knew was I was very reluctant to ask for more budget. Um, ask for more money. There may be work for 2 people, but then I would try to run the show with one person. And in the end, this one person would be so overworked that they'll be like, I'm going by, I can't do it anymore. So be vocal about your needs. And I was initially, I wanted this session about to be more about unconscious bias. Now, Google this term, okay? And this is something that I think at this point of time, you may not realize that is happening, but unconscious bias is something that you will encounter in your professional life. Unconscious bias is something that is something as simple as if you see if you see a South Indian, you'll say, "Oh, do you eat idli dosa for breakfast every day?" Yeah, that's like an unconscious bias that you have, right? And professionally, you will encounter it everywhere. Some people may think that you know something or you don't know something based on how you look, your gender, your ethnicity, or simply from the place that you're from. It could be various reasons. And while it is very, people are very aware of it. At least in I worked in the US, I worked in the UK, I've worked in Netherlands. I've worked in various parts of the world, and I feel like people in the West are a little more aware of it and try to correct it. And I think I've also worked in India for a lot of time. So I think in a place like India, it's slowly catching up. But this is the point when you're in lead positions is when you understand that unconscious bias is happening in workplace and you can do something to prevent it. So I would say, I'm not going to go into details of unconscious bias, but I would say go Google it and try to incorporate some things that are in your daily life that prevent unconscious bias. That will help you quite a bit. Now, once I was the implementation lead, I went into management, which is like a breakthrough, because that is when you have to take a specific, at one point of your career, you have to decide whether you're going to management or you're going into more of an architect or a technology specific role. And I was fortunate to become a platform owner, which is a mix of both. So you have management as well as, so what does a platform owner do? Platform owner does nothing. Every time they say, we have to do it. I don't know how, but we have to do it. And that is pretty much the summary of a platform owner. Now, we talked about the business intelligence platform, business intelligence framework, right? A platform, analytics platform is just a combination of everything and in a single platform, and you own that platform. So you have to prepare the data, you have to do formulations on that data, you also have to do knowledge discovery, you have to do data discovery, you have to create these graphs and everything that you have I talked about earlier. You have to present it, you have to publish that information, and also you have to manage a platform in terms of security, in terms of user access, in terms of everything. Essentially you're responsible for an analytics platform. Okay. And this is very vital because you have the cool job. 50% of the time I'm the rock star. People come to me for cool things. If they want to make cool analysis or cool dashboards, I'm responsible for it. So I have a cool job, and it's very interesting with the use cases that people come to me with, and I like to solve their problems, right? Sometimes they come to me with absolutely no idea whether it can be done or not, and when me and my team do it, to see that, oh, this can be done, oh, now I see the pattern, oh, this, I had absolutely no idea this was happening, that is, it's a sexy job. Okay, but 50% of the time you're like this, like, what, you like, this data, I cannot get this data, or you have like, people coming in and saying, this is my Excel sheet, it has like 150 macros, automate this for me, and it resides in my laptop. So then you'll be like, what, really? So 50% of the time it's cool, but 50% of the time you're just searching for data and trying to tell people that, uh, guys, this is not cool. So as an analytics platform owner, you have, you're responsible for the end to end of a platform. So there is nothing that says this is not my job. Everything is, everything related to that job, to that platform, is your job. And this is my organization. So we talked about business intelligence. We talked about the different roles that I had. So right now I own the product, the analytics. They call it a product. So I'm the product owner, or you can say, the platform manager or the platform project manager. And I have a data engineering team. I have a visualization team, and I have a data science team. And then these are the roles that, the advanced roles are one step below, which is very specific. You have the architect, you have the data engineer, you have the BI work happening, which is where the reports and the visualizations get created. And then you have the actual data science or analytics part, which is where the machine learning and the algorithms and the models get created. A little bit of artificial intelligence happens. And when I say stakeholder, sometimes you have to report to the senior leadership. I report to the chief digital transformation officer of my organization. Sometimes the CTO, which is the chief technology officer. Sometimes it's the CIO, which is the chief information officer. And also you have the business people, right? The business people who overall take care of the business, like the COOs and the CIOs, CEOs, who are in charge of the business. So this is overall an organization that I have. As an analytics manager, now I've been a manager or the platform owner for almost 4 years. And sometimes people will come to you and say, oh, let's move to the cloud because it's the cool thing to do. Sometimes it's not always. You have to learn to know that, just because somebody wants to do something for the heck of it, it's not cool. So cloud is not always the better choice. We have to establish processes, and it may be too premature to talk to you about all this. But when you do people management at some point, hopefully you will remember that some lady came and told you in a webinar that process management is also very important, which means you have to establish good practices within your team. Processes are very important. It can't just be a free for all. And most importantly, be transparent with everybody. Where I see analytics managers struggle is when they say they can do one thing when they cannot do it. So be transparent. That way people will trust you. When you say, I cannot do it, people will believe you. And when you say, I can do it, people will believe you. Also, things that I wish I knew when I took this the role was that you see so many specific roles, right? You see data engineer, and then you see a data scientist. You can't always say the data engineer will do only things that are assigned to the data engineer or designed for a data engineer. But everybody can pitch in some way. Sometimes the data engineer can do a better job than on BI and as a better job than a BI analyst on their tasks. So I always like to say that there is no I in the team. Everybody works together. So everybody helps each other out. You don't just look at your own silo of work and then say, oh, I'm only going to do this. I'm not going to help that other person. Agile is something that you will hear, if you've not already heard. Agile is a way of project management or delivery management. Again, it is something that people want to do for the sake of doing it. So I would say you can be agile, but don't do agile. Don't do agile just for the sake of doing it. So again, right now, it may not make much sense to you, but hopefully maybe 10 or 15 years from now, if agile is around, you will remember that a lady came and told you, you can be agile, but don't do agile. If you thought I only make movie memes, no. parting, I want to give you some gyan. Maya told me people don't like gyan, but I'm going to still give you some gyan. Okay, don't be afraid to take risks. You may, as in your journey, whether it's from your developer to a manager that I'm in, you may think it is not the right way. There is no set way of doing anything. Take risks, push your limits. That will always work for you. Um, it may not work out, but what do you have to lose? Maybe an email. That's it, right? But what do you have to gain? Think about that. So don't be afraid to take risks and push limits. Always remember, even Sachin Tendulkar took a long time to get to his 100th century. So milestones are there for a reason, but don't be miffed by them if you don't reach this. Like if at third, if after 3 years of IT experience you still don't get that lead role, don't worry about it. Just focus on what you're doing. So because even the best people take some time to achieve milestone. Now, if you know who this lady is, I would like stand up and clap for you. But again, go Google who she is. But you may be the best at some things. There will be a lot of situations where you are the best, but you may not be recognized. And that is where you have to take a step back and say, I know I'm the best. So I'm just going to focus on that. I'm not going to work on, I'm not going to bother about what recognition I get. Okay. Finally, don't forget to have fun, because it's even though it's a job, you have to have fun. And from the presentation that I gave you, I hope you understood that I like to have a lot of fun while working. So don't forget to have fun, because that's the point, right? You don't want to sit and slog in a work with no fun. So don't forget to have fun. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening. And if you have any questions,
Thank you so much, Anila. Thank you so much. That was such a fantastic presentation. Loved your memes, loved your gyan, your parting thoughts. I mean, for myself, and I think I mean, for me myself, the best thing was the things I wish I knew and things I learned at every stage of your life. You've put it out so precisely, and I hope the students have, taken in as much of, I think there's a lot of takeaway here, not just data analytics, but about how to go about every phase and know things. So the lessons you wish you knew, and I hope they learn from that. So guys, the floor is open for questions. Anybody, please put it in chat. You can unmute yourself. Either ways. Okay, so somebody says we know who she is. The
ooh,
photo. So yeah, I don't know. So
yeah,
Vivek, would you like to enlighten us with who she is?
it's okay. I'm glad that you know who she is.
Any questions, guys? Now is the time to ask questions.
If
So
you're shy questions, you can put it on your chat window too. Yes, it's not Harmanpreet Kaur, it's Harmanpreet Kaur. Get the name
Ma-
right.
okay, cool, nice. Yes, Utkarsh, you had some question.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, ma'am. While we are applying for these roles, so mostly data-related roles, we mostly get assignments rather than competitive programming as in SD roles. So, what would be the best practices according to you, which you would go about these assignments or tasks, which we get on the early stage of applying for these roles? Like any data-related roles I have applied, like we get mostly some tasks, some data set. Yeah.
Do you mean during your interview process, or do you mean during your work?
No, no, during the interview process.
So what do you mean? You get a data set and they give you assignments as to assess
Yes,
your skill? Is that what you said?
yes, yes, yes. Yeah.
Okay. So the question is, how do you practice? Is that
Uh, no, what are the best practices? While so basically they also tell you to do a presentation for that and like so stuff like this. So what would
okay?
yeah? So what
When
you would
I
do? Yeah.
go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just like when you went about these like tasks. So what were the practices which you use and what would you recommend?
So best practices in terms of data sets, they are very specific to the data set that you get, right?
Mm,
So there are two parts to your question. The first part is when I interview somebody or when I am interviewing for a developer for my position, um, I rarely look at whether you got the answer right. I always look at how you reached your answer. What is your thought process? Were you able to explain clearly what the thought process was? Because if you have that clarity in thought, it means it doesn't matter whether you got the answer right or not. You're going to work well for me, right?
mm,
So when every time you tackle a presentation or a data set for an interview or an assessment, make sure you show that clarity in thought, right? You say, I took this data set, this is how I worked on it. I split it into two columns, then I aggregated it, and this is how I reached the result that I am showing you.
mm,
I'm sure at least 90% of the interviewers or people that I know don't care whether you got the answer right. So show that thought process.
mm.
Now, best practices again, in terms of data sets is I can't give you generic data, like, generic best practices, but, you know, formatting them into, data quality, formatting them into normal, formatting them into a standard form, or I can't think of examples that I have for best practices, but there are some things that are very specific for databases, right? Have create data that has proper primary keys, or that is very distinct in nature. These are all some of the best practices that we have, but it totally depends on the use case that you have. There is no generic best practice for a data set. Did
Thank
that
you.
answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
There's another question, Anila. I would like to know about your master's at University of Liverpool and how it helped you to gain analytics manager position at Credit Union. Great presentation.
Perfect question. One, it did not help me at all in gaining my current role. The current role was solely based on experience. Okay. But having a master's degree helped me. So I did my master's in Liverpool part-time, which was I was working as well as I was doing my master's. And the master's in the education practices in UK are very different from what you have in India, at least in my experience. So it is very, very practical and very much in touch with what you're working on, right? So the way it helped me was to structure those thoughts. It helped me. We have to do theses and we have to do dissertations based on masters. So it helped me go back to some of the things that I had forgot about, right? It helped me go into detail about a lot of things that I don't use day to day. Examples are I work on big data day to day, but there are things like a lot of technologies that I don't see every day. So when I presented my thesis, I had to do research on all these technologies that had evolved a lot since I had seen them. 5 years back, it is not the same that it is now. So it helped me get in touch with a lot of things that I had lost touch with. So that way it helped me. But I took the master's because here, at least in the US, a lot of jobs require you to have a master's, require you to have a PhD. So it opens up a little more avenues for me in terms of career. So the current job that I have, I did not get because of the master's. It came from experience. But there are some jobs that I'm looking forward in the future which require a master's degree. So I don't want to be left. I don't want to be the one. Oh, I can't apply for this because I don't have a master's.
Thank you so much.
Sure. Yeah.
Any more questions, guys? Please feel free to put it in chat if you don't want to unmute and ask. So, Anila, I have a question. In your presentation, when you said there comes a point in time where you have to make the decision of whether to go the technical way or the management way, is there something that prompts you to make that decision, or is it purely personal reason, or is there something else, some other elements involved as well?
So the technology again, when you will be when you reach that point in your career,
Yes.
by default you will know what you're good at. Okay, which means you will have an inclination saying, I don't think I like management much, I don't think I want to talk to people, I don't think I want to give status reports every day. So at that point you intuitively you will know. It's like riding the bike, right? You know when to let your hands go or you know when you're ready for it. So at that point you will know that, okay, I want to do more technology or I want to do people management. In my case, I was not comfortable doing 100% management. I was not. I would have liked to do 100% technology, but I got an opportunity which is a mix of both, which is very fortunate for me. But again, my advice for anybody who's going into management was, don't lose touch with the technology. Always be in touch with technology, because that is where the action is, and it actually gives you a cutting edge. It gives you an advantage in a lot of places if you understand technology, rather than if you don't, right? So at that point when you have to choose between management or technology, I would say, if there are roles that are hybrids, choose that. But if you choose management, don't lose touch with your technology.
Okay. Thank you. Any more questions, guys? Please don't forget to fill out the feedback form. It's important for the speaker as well as for us to grow.
Also,
Um,
I hope you all have my LinkedIn. If you forgot to ask a question today, feel free to send me a
ah,
message on LinkedIn.
can you put it in chat? Is it okay, Anila? Can you put it in chat so then they can reach out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have my LinkedIn profile here, but just search for my
Oh,
full
okay.
name.
Okay, I'll get it. I'll get it and I'll put it. Yeah, we'll put it in the when we
Yeah, but
tag them.
don't hesitate. I think I got a couple of connect requests already from people from CUSAT, so I'm happy. Thank you for reaching out. Feel free to reach out again for anything professional or otherwise. Let me know.
Yeah, no, so seriously, guys, I should okay, yeah, so
There it
somebody's
is.
already put it there. Thank you,
I think
Ocean.
just
Thank you
a
for that.
request from Ocean today.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, so guys, you should, I mean, really thank Anila because it's past midnight now, and she so readily agreed to come for
It's
the session.
Saturday morning.
Not really do appreciate it, Anila. I mean, it was a last minute thing, and you agreed to come, and even though this was like really crappy timing for you, but really, and it was such a fantastic presentation. I tell you that, with all the lessons we learned, and I really loved that part actually. For me personally, I really did love that part, and even the takeaways, the gyan. I'm always for gyan, but I don't know about the students, but I'm always for the gyan. So yeah, so thank you so much for everything, guys. If there's no other questions, we'll leave then.
I
Is
also
that
want to
it?
say thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for everybody who joined on a Saturday morning at 9 a.m. I know when I was in college, Saturday 9 a.m.s were not times when I would join a webinar. But thank you so much for joining a webinar and for spending some time with me. So thank you for the
Sure.
opportunity, Maya. Please,
Yeah,
it's a
no worries.
privilege. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Take care. And
Bye.
thank you, guys. Next week, we have a panel discussion. Please don't forget with the 8 top researchers from Australia. So be there. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you all. See you next week.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Bye.
Anil. Thank you. Bye.